She liked movies, especially Some Like It Hot. And she loved sharing pizza with you guys, her grandkids. And she really, really liked ice cream. Thank you all for coming today. And I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We're here today to celebrate two things. First, the positive impact of the life of Georgette Beal on all of us. And second, her return in heaven to the loving arms of God the Father, her husband Frank, her parents George and Lily, and her brother Jim. We should not mourn the loss of Georgette. We should instead celebrate her release from the body that had progressively failed her over the last several years. We should celebrate and rejoice in knowing that her soul has returned home in perfect peace, as is the promise of our Savior, to be with those she loves so much. Until 2002, for the first 77 years of her life on this place, Georgette had never lived alone. Home was always defined as first where her mom and dad were, or second, where she and Frank made their home. It was as Frank's health declined and failed that Georgette first encountered the ridiculous idea of making a home on Earth without the people that were central to the whole concept of home in her mind. For the past 6 years, Georgette lived nearby, but nevertheless alone. It was her choice. It's what she wanted, and she was indeed grateful for the chance to live the last years of her life in the house that she and Frank built for themselves earlier this decade. But I'm sure that over these last years, she never really thought of that house as her home. Not that Mom didn't love and appreciate Angie and me. She loved us dearly, and I'm confident that she knew we did well to comfort and care for her, as good children should care for their aging parents. We are a tight and loving family, and we did our jobs with deep love and respect. Even though Mom lived right next door to me, saw me daily, spoke and saw Angie at length on a daily basis, Angie and I had no mortal power to give Mom what she wanted, to be at home with Frank and to see her mom and dad again. This is not to say that Georgette had a death wish. Quite the opposite, I think. Georgette might be described as someone as having kind of a controlling personality. I'm quite confident that Mom hung on as long as she did on this earth because she thought she might eventually win an argument with God to return things right here on earth, to bring George and Lily back to her, restoring them to her childhood home on LaSalle Avenue in Culver City. And of course, return Frank to her with his vigorous body and keen intellect. In other words, return to her the man she had married and loved since 1953. And while we have free will and can control our actions here on earth, I'm not certain that anybody, not even Mom, wins that kind of argument with God. Speaking of 1953, when Frank and Georgette got married, and doing some research to put together a movie that Angie and I will share with you this afternoon at our family's reception that will celebrate Georgette's life, I noticed something that none of us could possibly have known that knew her only later in life. Georgette actually could be quite glamorous. As a young woman, she worked for years in one of the big Hollywood studios. And if you think about it, Hollywood in the 40s and 50s was a pretty special place. And I think Georgette, while certainly not a star, fit in and loved being part of the scene. Besides family, Georgette's friends were formed at the studios, and her values were formed at St. Augustine's Parish. In fact, it is fascinating to reflect on how central St. Augustine's was in her life. And knowing how important church and church schools can be to Catholics, I think that contributed to Georgette and Frank's keen desire to be part of the family of Holy Trinity Parish for our community here in El Dorado County. So what words best describe Georgette? Well, of course, to Angie and I, it's Mom. But she would self-describe herself, I think, as wife, mom, daughter, Irish, Catholic, outgoing, extrovert, and proud. That is, proud of her kids, which came to include beyond Angie and I, Fernando and Kim. And later in life, proud of being Nana to 6 wonderful grandchildren. She was also thankful. In spite of that ongoing argument with God, thankful to Him for the life He gave her, for her family and friends, and now for the peace she has attained. On behalf of our family, Angie, Frank, and I want to thank all of you, and thank also those who could not be here today for care and love for Georgette. We want to thank the wonderful caregivers at Snowline Hospice and Help at Home, for doctors, other caregivers, notably Farleah, and the Holy Trinity Parish community, especially Monsignor Kidder and Father Wells, for giving her a great deal of attention and comfort along the way. And I especially want to thank Kim for allowing Mom to come live on our property and for allowing her to become such a central figure in your life too. So now, about Georgette's argument with God. God won. And in the process, so has Georgette. Welcome home, Mom. On behalf of our family, Kim and I would like to invite you all to our home for a reception immediately following today's Mass.